We don't talk enough about how sacred it is to feel emotionally safe with another human being. And a romantic relationship should feel like a safe home to come home to return to. And so many people are in relationships where they don't feel emotionally safe. And I would define emotional safety as trust and respect. Like, very simply, the foundation of a relationship must be trust and respect. And you can't build a home on shaky ground, and you can't build a relationship on a weak foundation. And a lot of people rush into relationships because falling in love obviously is a very emotional experience, and we have these very strong feelings for someone. And you couple that with the pressure to partner with someone, the pressure to build a family, feeling like you've been single a long time. And people rush into relationships and they rush into commitment and marriage without first building that strong foundation. A relationship without emotional safety has no chance. I mean, emotional safety is not the only thing that we need in a relationship. But if we don't feel safe, obviously physically, but also mentally and psychologically with someone, all the other things, the chemistry, even the shared values, the fun times that you have, none of it matters if you don't actually trust someone and you don't feel like you can really be your true self with someone. And we underestimate what a gift it is to be able to really feel like we can be ourselves with someone. We underestimate the gift that it is to be in a relationship with someone where you can have an argument and it's not going to mean it's the end of your relationship. When you feel safe enough to argue with your partner, that is a very clear sign that you are in a safe relationship. So many people, they get into arguments and they're afraid that's going to be the end of the relationship, because a lot of people have a habit of every time there's an argument, they start to doubt their relationship or they threaten to break up with the person. When we can feel safe enough to disagree, when we can feel safe enough to express an opinion that is different than our partner's opinion, when we feel safe enough to have an argument, to get pissed at each other once in a while, and to have the certainty of knowing that that's not going to break the foundation, that's when you know you're in something secure. And that isn't to say that you should be having a lot of arguments. No, I truly believe that arguments and fighting are a part of healthy relationships, of stable relationships, but we still want to have more peace than we want to have disharmony. But again, that said, we want to be able to be very reminded of the fact that you are a sovereign person and an autonomous person, and you are in a relationship with a sovereign, autonomous person who has their own mind and their own thoughts and their own opinions. And sometimes the two of you are going to clash. And if there is room for the two of you to clash and to then come back and have some repair or just to let it go, then you know that there's a lot of trust. When you can have 100% certainty with someone, like that you know exactly where you stand in this person's life, and they know exactly where they stand in your life. When you know that you are a priority, that your well-being is a priority to your partner, and obviously vice versa, when you know this, you have certainty. And it's that certainty that is the ground upon which everything else is built. It is the soil of a relationship. And if you've ever been in a relationship, romantic or otherwise, where you constantly feel like you have to walk on eggshells, where you have to rehearse what you're going to say to the person many times before you say it because you're bracing yourself for defensiveness. When you feel like you have to perform in the relationship or be someone who you're not, or every time you are yourself, you just kind of feel like it's not enough for the other person. When every time you have an argument, it escalates into something so much bigger than it needs to be. And then it becomes a conversation about, oh, are we in the right relationship? If you've ever had this experience with someone else, then you know the utter devastation that happens physiologically as a result of that. It's not just psychological, because the mind and the body are one. So you feel that emotional distress, that stress, and then it translates into complete nervous system dysregulation. And what I mean by that is that you kind of feel like you're in this chronic state of alert. You're in fight or flight. You're not sleeping well. You're starting to have digestive issues and maybe headaches. And you are thinking about the relationship way more than you should be. Because one of the clear signs that you are in a secure relationship where it's rich with emotional safety is you don't have to think about the relationship all the time. You know, there's room in your head, in your mind, to think about other things like other relationships, work, yourself, friendships, family. You don't have to constantly obsess about the relationship and the status of the relationship. This episode is sponsored by Thrive Cosmetics. I am not a big makeup girl, but I do like very simple things. And it's really important to me that the makeup I use is clean and cruelty-free. And I'm obsessed with Thrive Cosmetics. Their products also support communities that I care about. It's just a fantastic company with fantastic products. So with over 150 million in product and cash donations to 600 plus giving partners, your purchase directly fuels real impact. And that is meaningful to me. So their liquid lash extensions mascara, unbelievable. All my friends have it. I wear it. It's vegan tubing mascara with over 40,000 five-star reviews. Let that sink in. Over 40,000 five-star reviews. It's incredible. It's sweat-proof. It's got 6 shades, easy removal. Like, it's a no-brainer. Their Brilliant Eye Brightener is incredible, waterproof. It gives like a radiant, like really cool sheen, like kind of like for the beach or for the pool. It's just incredible. So maximize your look with minimal effort. Go to thrivecosmetics.com/Jillian for an exclusive offer of 20% off your first order. That's Thrive Cosmetics, CAUSEMETICS.com/Jillian. Now, why is emotional safety also so incredibly important? When we feel safe in the company of others, it lowers our cortisol and it stimulates our parasympathetic nervous system, which that's the part of the nervous system that is responsible for rest and digest. Right? So if you've ever felt totally wired, totally stressed out, having all these digestive issues, it's because you are not able to enter a parasympathetic nervous system state. Now, we're not meant to be in that state all the time, right? There's such a thing as healthy stress that that gets us motivated and gets us into action. But we do need to be able to get into parasympathetic states so that we can relax, so that we can sleep, so that we can digest our food, so we can assimilate our food. And when you are in the company of people with whom you feel safe, it triggers the parasympathetic nervous system. And then we can relax. And your partner is the person who you are going to spend the most amount of time with. Your partner is going to impact and influence your sleep. They're going to influence the way that you think, your beliefs. They're going to influence your day-to-day, your joy. They're going to influence your nervous system. When you are spending the majority of your time with a person with whom you do not feel relaxed, that has a profound impact on your well-being, and not in a good way. So, supportive relationships, ones where we feel accepted, ones where we feel like we belong, ones where we feel safe, where we can be ourselves, ones where there's certainty, right? Where we are certain of the person's love for us and dedication to us and support of us. Those are the ones that add years to our lives. And then conversely, and data and research supports this, when we are in unhealthy relationships, and what I mean by unhealthy is we are in chronic states of fight or flight, then we can't relax, our nervous system is charged, our cortisol goes through the roof, and then our immunity goes down because inflammation goes up. So there's now research to suggest that healthy relationships, and this is not just romantic, actually can lower inflammation as long as we are engaging in these relationships. And this is why I have worked with countless people where part of what I've, and I put this in quotation marks, part of what I have prescribed to them, is not just exercise, eating well, journaling, all these things for personal development, but it's spend time with supportive, like-minded community. Whether that is, again, the community that you find or the relationships you find in family or a family member, a friend, a coworker, because that is when you are reminded of who you are. It's when you can see yourself clearly, and it's where you can relax. It's where you can regulate. And this is where the concept of co-regulation comes in. The ability to be around others, and in the presence of others, your system starts to regulate. Another aspect of co-regulation that happens in a parent-child relationship, or should happen in a parent-child relationship, it also happens in romantic relationships and friendships, and it can also happens between a therapist and a patient, a doctor and a patient, a coach and a client, coworkers, is if someone is anxious or in a panic state, if you can step into your most grounded self and be a sort of anchor for them, then they are able to co-regulate with you. And sometimes two people can be anxious and they feed each other, they feed the anxiety, they feed each other's anxiety, and it's like, whoa, you need to take a step back. But sometimes if you take a walk, that's why sometimes if you have to have a really difficult conversation, have that conversation while you're walking, because you are actually, there's blood flow, the movement makes it so that you are not you're able to sort of like channel some of the excess energy that's in your body, because sometimes when we're in sort of a difficult circumstance with someone will feel like our insides are like a pressure cooker. So these are all the concepts behind co-regulation. When we're in a romantic relationship with someone, we provide and receive emotional safety if we're having a really hard time, we're having a hard day, we're anxious, feeling overwhelmed. And then our partner can be grounded, can sort of act like a foil and be grounded around us to actually act as an anchor. Now, you don't want to have to do that all the time and all day for your partner, of course not. But, life can be kind of hard, and life can be very overwhelming, and sometimes we kind of lose it, and it's a gift to have a partner who can be an anchor for us, and we want to be able to do that for our partner as well. This episode is sponsored by QCODE. QCODE is a plant-based, hydrating electrolyte drink mix with no added sugar. It is really delicious, and it doesn't have any artificial stuff in it. One of the things that I've learned recently is that you can drink a lot of water and still not be hydrated because you're missing certain minerals and the body doesn't absorb the water. And most people are walking around very, very dehydrated. So I've always been interested in drinking sort of like an electrolyte mix, but so many of them come with artificial colors and stuff, and that I'm just not interested in it. QCODE is natural. It has the right amount of electrolytes in it, and I love the taste and the flavors. And it's only 25 calories per serving. It has, like I said, no artificial sweeteners, just clean, natural hydration that keeps you feeling energized without the crash, basically. QCODE is also made with high quality ingredients like coconut water powder and pink Himalayan salt. And by the way, is rigorously tested to ensure that they meet quality standards. That is very important to me. So hydration goes beyond just drinking water. It's about replenishing the electrolytes we lose through sweat, sleep, alcohol, and daily activities. Water alone isn't enough to do the job, like I said. That's why you need to try QCODE, the electrolyte drink mix that tastes as amazing as it makes you feel. For Jillian On Love listeners, QCODE is offering 20% off your first order. Stay hydrated and feel your best by visiting curehydration.com/Jillian and using promo code Jillian at checkout. That's curehydration.com/Jillian and use code Jillian for 20% off your first order. So, signs of emotional safety. Number one is consistency. We need to know what we're going to get with someone. If there's constant uncertainty or constant inconsistency, and we never know, like the person's going to come home or we're going to come home and we don't know what version of them we're going to get. That is incredibly, incredibly difficult. It's like misery to live with that. First and foremost is just consistency. That doesn't mean you have to be perfect all the time. It doesn't mean you have to be regulated all the time. None of us are. But we certainly don't, like I said, want to be coming home or, every day wake up and not know what mood our partner is going to be in. Number two is accountability. When we can own our mistakes. Being in a relationship means that sometimes you are going to unconsciously and mindlessly and unintentionally hurt your partner's feelings. We are going to sometimes make mistakes. We are sometimes not going to behave our best. And if we can take full responsibility instead of deflect or blame, and your partner can take full responsibility instead of deflect or blame, then we are creating emotional safety. The third way in which we create emotional safety, third most important way, is how we respond to conflict. Some of the most high risk and therefore emotionally unsafe behavior in a relationship is to shut down, with stonewall, and give the silent treatment. People do that because it's learned behavior. They're taking their overwhelm And they are reacting that way because they saw one of their parents do that. Or if they're highly manipulative, they recognize that that is actually how they gain control back in the relationship. Because when people do that, they typically feel out of control. And so if you're in a relationship with someone whose MO is to ignore you or give you the silent treatment when they're upset with you and there's an argument, then you are in a relationship with someone who is emotionally unsafe. And I take that very seriously. I think the silent treatment and stonewalling, regardless of what that person's past is or how dysregulated they are, it's starting to become more widely recognized as emotional abuse to do that consistently. It's never going to be okay to do that. But it's also not okay to tell your partner, I'm upset and we need to talk right now, when your partner is clearly overwhelmed and is asking for just a little time out, so that they can recalibrate. Or they're asking to talk later because they're in the middle of doing something. And then if you protest and keep pushing, that's not cool either. Then you are creating the conditions for someone not to feel safe to open. We create emotional safety by accepting someone for who they are. That doesn't mean that we accept all behavior. We can absolutely ask, require, even at times make a demand if things are serious enough that certain behavior change. But that is very different than not accepting someone for who they actually are. That's very different than wanting someone who is an artist to then, be a scientist. That's very different than wanting someone who is maybe loud and vivacious and passionate and speaks in a certain way to be really quiet. It's just not going to work. We have to accept people's personalities and what they are. And if we're not going to accept it, then we're not with the right person. But we can't try to change them. So when we feel like someone is trying to change us, someone's trying to make us into someone who we're not, if we're constantly trying to fight to be enough for someone, we feel like we're always falling short, we feel like we're always disappointing someone just by being who we are, then we're in an emotionally unsafe situation. But here's a really important thing to keep in mind. No one is 100% responsible for making you feel emotionally safe. When we're in a relationship with someone, it has to be our priority to make sure that trust and respect are at the foundation. We trust that that we're not going to cheat on each other. We trust that we're going to tell each other the truth. We trust that we're going to have each other's backs. And if we disagree with something that we said or did, we're not going to call you out in front of other people. We're going to talk to you privately and just say, that wasn't cool. Let's talk about it. We also have to work on feeling safe inside ourselves. So, for example, when we're in a relationship, we're projecting all the time. We have to take responsibility. If we feel like there's some eggshells on the ground, it's actually on us to be able to say, I'm not going to walk on that eggshell. I'm not going to be a people pleaser when that eggshell is down. I need to find the confidence and the resilience and the strength and the courage, really, inside myself to be like, no, I'm not going to do that thing if I don't want to do it. And and you just basically say, I don't feel comfortable with that, or I can't do that today, or whatever it is. Because let's face it, we don't want to lose love. So it doesn't matter what your attachment style is or is not. We don't want to lose love. And we all have certain patterns that we bring into relationships that are way older than the relationship itself. And these are patterns that we have practiced so much to the point where they're unconscious and out of our awareness. And the point is to bring it into our awareness that we do. These are patterns that we do, that we practice, that we perpetuate when we feel a little insecure, or when we feel like we are going to lose love. It's like, oh, I have to keep doing this, or maybe I won't be good enough for this person. And then we try to make it like, well, they don't make me feel emotionally safe. When really what's happening is, no. You're projecting your insecurity onto them, and you have to be able to tell the truth. You have to be able to speak the need. You have to be able to have the boundary. You have to be able to have the difficult conversation. Because sometimes it's not about the other person. Sometimes it's about us not feeling safe enough in our own bodies. And then we blame the relationship, or we blame our partner for something that we have to address inside ourselves. This is an ad by BetterHelp. These days, it feels like there's advice for everything. It's actually overwhelming. It's like cold plunges, like screen detoxes, gratitude journals. And how do you know what actually works for you? It's like with the internet and information overload about mental health and wellness, it actually can be a struggle to know what's actually true and what is actually best for you. What I do know is that all these hacks are important, but they don't do anything if we don't learn positive coping skills and how to set boundaries and how to communicate and actually how to find meaning in our life. That's why I love BetterHelp. It has over 30,000 therapists, and it is the world's largest online therapy platform, having served over 5 million people globally. As the largest online therapy provider in the world, BetterHelp can provide access to mental health professionals with a diverse variety of expertise. Do the cold plunge if it works for you, but also talk it out with BetterHelp. Our listeners get 10% off their first month at betterhelp.com/onlove. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/onlove. This episode is sponsored by Rocket Money. You need Rocket Money because a lot of people are not aware of how much they spend each month. Do you know how many subscriptions you pay for? Because I didn't before Rocket Money. What about how much you spend on takeout or delivery? It's all more than you think. But there's an app designed to help you manage your money better, and that is Rocket Money. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that helps find and cancel your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps lower your bills so you can grow your savings. It is genius. Rocket Money's 5 million members have saved a total of $500 million in canceled subscriptions, with members saving up to $740 a year when they use all of the app's premium features. So cancel your unwanted subscriptions and reach your financial goals faster with Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/onlove today. That's rocketmoney.com/onlove, rocketmoney.com/onlove. So how do you know if it's you or if it's the other person? I mean, ultimately, to create safety within yourself is learning how to trust yourself. And that is a large part of that is keeping promises with yourself. A huge part of that is telling the truth to yourself, because no one's going to lie to you more than you are going to lie to yourself. It's having the courage to express your needs rather than expecting someone to be a mind reader. It's understanding what your boundaries are and then having the courage to discuss those boundaries. And it's also having the courage to have difficult conversations. Building safety inside ourselves is also deeply physiological. It's somatic. And so you can do all these things, But if your shoulders are up by your ears and you're having chronic anxiety and chronic, digestive issues and you don't feel safe, then you're going to have to take measures to move your body and to breathe in a certain way so that you can regulate yourself. Because as powerful as it is to be with another person to co-regulate, we also want to be able to access that on our own too. We want to be able to go to our partner and go to our friend and go to our family member when we're having a really difficult time because we need each other. And it's also incredibly powerful and builds an incredible amount of self-trust when we don't have that resource and we can say, okay, I'm not feeling good. What can I do for myself right now that's going to ground me? And that's powerful because then you know that you can have your own back. We have to be able to evaluate ourselves. Be someone whose word is gold. Be someone who is not going to run away from difficult conversations or from conflict. If you're someone for whom the norm has been sort of chaotic relationships or very emotionally unsafe relationships, you have to learn how to choose someone who actually really sees you. And that's part of the difficulty in that is you really having to be vulnerable and choosing to be vulnerable with someone who actually cherishes your vulnerability. So remember, even though safety is not the only thing that we need in a relationship of any sort, it is the foundation. So when you're choosing a partner, make sure that you feel safe with them. And if you're in a relationship and you feel like some of the trust is fading, some of the respect is fading, the certainty is not as strong as it used to be, and you love this person, try to work it out with them. And that'll be another episode. But it's not about just completely dismissing someone. It's about seeing if the both of you can bring more emotional safety to the relationship. And that might mean listening better without defensiveness. That might mean you have to be more consistent. That might mean you have to be more tolerant. Like, we all have to evaluate ourselves, like, what do I have to work on relationally that is going to make it so that I am a safer partner? And what do I have to do to make sure to advocate for myself? Because you deserve to be in something emotionally safe, because without it, it is just too detrimental to your well-being. Anyway, I hope this helps. Any questions, any concerns, comments about this episode, please leave some comments below or reach out to us at hello@JillianOnLove.com. We read all your messages. And most importantly, if there is anyone you know whose life could change just as a result from one thing that I said in this episode, please do not hesitate to share, because you just never know whose life you could turn around by doing that. My membership for women, called The Conscious Woman, women who want to choose themselves, women who want to have healthy relationships, to learn how to speak their needs, to learn how to meet needs better, and to actually just strengthen the relationship with themselves. We are opening up doors in the fall, but the only people who can get in are people who are on the wait list. So make sure you check the show notes and get on that wait list, because this is an incredible membership. And it's where you get high-level coaching as well from me and from another coach. So thank you for listening and for being here. And until next time. Jillian on Love is a QCODE production, executive produced by David Henning and Steve Wilson, produced and edited by Travis Howe, music by Will Tendy.